a different size of bucket than I have, right? But the difference would be how I'm able to manage my stress and how you are able to manage your stress. You can see some taps, all right, on top of the bucket. That's if you can see the screen. And these taps are bringing in water. This water we're going to call the stress, right? So relationship problems can be a source of stress. Work pressure or job loss can be a source of stress. Moving from one house to another can be a source of stress. Losing someone close, a source of stress. I mean, getting married, going to school, you know, whatever big changes that happens in your life can be a source of stress for you. And all of these things are sources of stress, bringing in stress into your bucket. Your bucket is how much you can tolerate. Okay. Now, um, once this all of these sources are bringing in water into your bucket, if you are unable, to get this water out of your bucket, what happens? It accumulates, it becomes a lot, it becomes overwhelming, and this is when you start to feel what you call stress. This is when you start to feel that tension, that anxiety, that overwhelmingness. Okay. And you can have, at this point, you can have symptoms like what? In your body, you may have aches, back pain, headaches, but you take what they call it, painkillers, but it looks like it just keeps coming back. Chest pain, palpitations, you don't know, you just me, I don't understand why. I just feel like my heart is beating, and it's not like anything is really going on right now. So you can have this kind of symptoms, physically in your body. In your emotions, you can have other symptoms. How you feel. You may feel sad, you may feel angry, you may feel low, your mood is just basically down. You may feel fatigued all the time. It looks like you have slept all through the night, but you're waking up and you're still feeling tired, you know. In your cognition or in your mind, in your thinking, you may also find some other things like what? Being afraid, having loss of memory, poor concentration, you're unable to think clearly or make decisions, forgetfulness all the time. And then the last part that we also see that stress affects is behavior. Some people begin to isolate, they don't want to talk to anybody, they don't see anybody. Some people become aggressive. Little things that may not have triggered some aggressive reactions, you just begin to see the person being super, super aggressive. These are some common symptoms that you find when someone starts feeling, accumulated with stress. And so, if you look at the picture I have, some people try to bring out this water by using, positive things like self-care, doing things for yourself, making yourself happy, using problem solving rather than avoiding problems, worry management, just like one of the questions that was asked initially. Because if you keep worrying, what you do is bringing more water into this bucket. So, trying to manage this worry. Some people want to try using alcohol, drugs, smoking, but all of this will just only bring more stress back into your bucket, more water back into your bucket, because you're not solving the problem, or this is not solving the problem. Can we move to the next slide? So, we basically want to see, you know, what stress management is. Now, we've understood what stress is. We see how that stress is natural and at what point stress becomes negative. We've seen how the body naturally reacts to stressful events. We've also seen some symptoms or some common signs about of stress. And now we want to now look exactly into what stress management is. Stress management generally are tools or techniques that people use to reduce their stress or reduce the negative effects that stress can have on your mental well-being, on your physical well-being, and all of that. Next slide. So some of the tools, the first one we want to look at is what we call a work-life balance. I mean, for some people here who are students, you want to call work um, your academics, right? So what is the work-life balance? Is paying attention to every aspect of your life and ensuring or making sure that you are having satisfaction or you're having progress in all these aspects of your life. The next slide, please. We have a picture that shows us an example of what a work-life balance. This is the wheel. We call this a wheel of balance or a wheel of life, right? And on this wheel here, we have different aspects of life. I mean, we have physical environment, business, career, finances, your health, that's your physical health, or your mental health in addition, if you would like, family and friends, romance, personal growth, fun and recreation. Now, um, when you have time, this is something that I encourage people to do. Look at the wheel of life, and think about each aspect. I mean, my physical environment, how am I feeling about it? Am I happy with my physical environment? Am I satisfied? Is this really what I want to be seeing? Is my angwa tight? Is the angwa, my angwa, is it tired? Is it muddy? My house, do I have light all the time? These are some of the things that make you feel satisfied with your physical environment, right? Your business or your career. I mean, this is where you can evaluate for your education. For those people who are working, am I working in the place where I would like to work? Is this where I want? Is this how I would like my career to be? Am I really practicing what I probably studied or what I desired to practice? Sometimes you have people who are, let me see, in Nigeria, we have a lot of things. Someone who studied engineering, you could find the person working in the bank. For that person, you may want to start evaluating, is it really what I want to do in my life? Am I progressing career wise? How about my finances? At what point am I satisfied? What can I do to make these things better? Because the idea for this wheel of life balance is for you to look at the areas where you feel you are lacking and put in more effort there, because generally this is what gives you satisfaction in your life. So paying attention to the places where you feel you are lagging behind. The next we want to look at as a tool that people also use in managing stress, next slide please, is what we call the CIA model. C means control, I means influence, and A means acceptance. Now, the CIA model is also a tool that a lot of people use, you know, to okay, let me just explain what the control, influence, and acceptance is. So control basically means things that are within your own control as a person. Things that are within your own control as a person. What are examples of some things that are within your control? I mean, your emotions are still under your control. Expertise or knowledge about a particular subject, that's still under your control. How you react to situations under your control. Your reputation is under your control. Your personal choices, decisions, the relationships you keep, all of these are still under your control, right? What are some of the things that are not under your control, but you can do one or two things to influence? Or you can use what you can control to influence this particular situation. I mean, how other people see things, how other people um how other people react, how other people think, are not those things are not under your control. But probably with your expertise in a particular field, you can influence some of these things. Okay, you can influence how somebody views something. You can influence how somebody can respond to something, even though that's not under your control. All right. What are some things that are not under your control, not under your influence? You have no choice. You just have to, accept them the way they are, because you can't control them, you can't influence them. What are some of these examples of some things like that? Governance, right? I wish people could put in the chat box as we are talking, but because we don't have time, I'm not asking. I'm trying to run through. But I would have really liked for us to come up with some ideas, some things that are within our control, things that are within our influence, and things that are out of our control, things we just only have to accept, right? So accepting basically means you adapting to what's there. For example, some policies that are being made, fuel right now is how much. These are things that right now we can't control, right? We can't even influence it. It is, yes, government policies. It is what has already been set, and we basically adapt until we see another change. Now, the reason why this is important, the CIO model, is because a lot of times people focus their energies on things that are beyond their control, things that are beyond their cycle of influence. And because of that, it increases your stress level and it makes you feel low and down all the time. But you're not channeling your energies in the right places, right? What can I do differently? I mean, the things that are within my own control, I can do things differently to make my life better, to make things easier for me. The things that are within my control, the things that are still under my influence, I can do some things to make life easier or better. I can channel my energies in those areas. Okay, so this is why the CIO model is a tool that we also use in encouraging people to manage stress. I think, let's next slide, please. I just want to, I have listed in the next slide a different coping strategies that people use. Next slide. Yes, different coping strategies that people use. And I have 6 of them. You can find yourself in any of this list, or you can find yourself 2, 3, or more of this list, just for you to be aware that these are different coping styles and they are positive and they are effective for different situations. For some of the ones that you're not using, you can start thinking to use them. Okay, we have belief as a style of coping. This, when someone turns to their belief system as a means of coping, they pray, they read the Bible or read the Quran, they go to church, they have fellowships and all of that. Then we have affect, which is people using their expression of emotions, right, as a source, as a means of coping with situations. So for example, somebody crying, somebody getting angry is a way of them to cope with a particular situation. Some other people use social or friends, people, basically connections, as source of support to cope with situations. Other people may use their creativity, their imagination. This, of course, can involve like writing poems, writing songs, dancing, painting, art generally, as a way of expressing what they are feeling inside or coping with situations around them. Some other people are problem solving, right? What's the issue right now? What are the ways through which we can solve this problem? For me, that's the way to go. And then let's leave all this crying for people that are crying. But it's very, very okay to cry. I mean, that's the body's natural response to sad events. And then finally, using physical activity or physiological aspect, people use physical activity as a way of coping with problems or coping with stressful events. So my question to you now is, what is your own style of coping? I would like you to take out time to think about this, because these are different ways that you can use in managing situations, getting water out of your bucket. I mean, the next slide, sir. Getting water out of your bucket. Please take out time to think about this. What's your coping style? Thank you so much for listening. If you have questions, please put out your questions now. I am available to answer.
Thank you very much, Yetunde. Can we please appreciate that for this swell time? Um, yeah, it's so good to listen to all these things. It's okay to cry. It's okay to it's okay to cry. Crying is the body's natural response. Um, okay, someone said rest and sleep, and I'm happy our questions have started coming in. I have one
Mm,
question already. If there's any, I'll ask one or two questions. You can please drop them in the chat box, yeah, so that we can, put them in order. And if you feel like typing might not be able to articulate what you want to say very well, you can just put your thoughts together too and raise your hand, and we'll follow some sequence to get your questions to Yetunde. And apologies once again, everybody, for the network glitch. Sometimes, these things are out of hand. We'll try to get better next time. So, stress. She has a question for us here saying, what's our coping style? In the chat box, we can see somebody saying, I distress by resting, and
mhm,
another person says relax and sleep, and
mhm.
another person said I listen to symphonic or orchestra. Okay.
Mm.
Please, we can keep answering that. You can in the chat
Yeah,
box. Uh,
I see
yeah.
someone
Then
very, very empathic. Sleep first before anything else. And I like that.
okay, there's somebody here that says crying. Okay, that's interesting. Uh,
Yeah.
so we're just going to we have two questions in the box and one person raising up a hand. So just go with the first question. First question says, does stress have any positive impact? Does stress have any positive impact?
Um, so I'm going to answer that straight up yes. Um, Amos, I think when we started at the beginning and we're trying to define what stress is, we saw that stress is really, really important for us to go through life. Waking up in the morning is because stress hormones is released, right? Stress is what makes you read your book to pass an exam. So stress is really, really important. It has a very positive impact. This is what keeps us active, keeps us wanting to do, wanting to achieve, and all of that. So stress has a positive impact. But like I said, the place where stress begins to be negative is when it is accumulated without, coping properly or distressing or taking out time, for yourself. This is where stress begins to have a negative impact. Otherwise, stress is natural response of the body. Natural, it everybody has stress. Everybody undergoes stress. Very, very important for us to go through life. So yes, it has a positive impact.
Thank you very much. Stress has a positive impact.
Mm,
We'll move to the next question. It says, can you shed more light between stress and the difference between stress and tiredness?
mm.
Okay, because we use the word interchangeably. So just like the difference between stress and
Yeah,
tiredness.
exactly. So again, this is like normal balance, the way we just gist and talk and say, oh, I dey feel stress, and that is us trying to say I'm feeling tired or I am feeling fatigued. Now when someone is just tired, it's more of a result of physical activity, right? You are physically, because of physical things that you've done, you've had a run, you've been up and doing, and then your legs, your hands are weak and tired. This is you being tired. Very, very normal response. Stress, on the other hand, is, if you're talking about the stress that I think you're talking about when we say, hey, I dey feel stressed, right? That may be referring to accumulated. You've had problems at work that you didn't deal with. You came back to the house. Everybody is asking you for this and this. Ah, we need money to do this. We need money to do that. And your bank account is not even reflecting what can solve the problems. And that one is there pending. So stress, actually, the negative stress we're talking about comes from a lot of problems unsolved, a lot of negative issues unsolved that has not been taken care of, and then it accumulates. This is now what stress is. And we mentioned different symptoms. Tiredness or fatigue can also be a result of stress, but it also comes with other symptoms like aches, like sleeplessness, anxiety and worry, behavioral problems, response to issues or problems, when more like heightened response. So somebody calls your name, hey, Amos, how far? Which kind of nonsense is that? How you gonna call me like that? On a normal day, this is not how you respond. So you see where the difference is. Stress is more like accumulated issues, problems, negative things that have not been dealt with. Tiredness can just be as a result of physical activity and you're feeling physically tired in your body. I'm hoping I answered your question. Please let me know in the chat box if that's okay or you need more shedding of light.
Thank you very much. That was very, very clear. Yeah, it must. So we are going to take one more question. I would like someone to voice out their question if they can. Just one person after this question. The question in the chat box says, how can identifying early sign of stress help prevent it from escalating into serious health issues? How can early identification of stress help or prevent more serious health issues?
Okay, so of course, to start with, identifying of stress and taking care of it early helps. It's just like saying, I'm having headache and cold. I mean, if I'm identifying the symptoms already, I can probably try using what, paracetamol or something quickly, early, before it degenerates. So sometimes negative issues like this accumulated can start with you having, sad feelings, being angry, now feeling low, and all of that. Um, at this point, we're still looking at maybe, you know, early issues that you can just deal with now. But then once it's persistent and then it stays for a long time and you're still in this mode, we're now looking at depression clinically, right? Again, the same with being exposed to traumatic events. At the immediate time after the traumatic event just happened, maybe you were robbed, maybe you witnessed somebody being killed, or maybe you were threatened, you were almost killed. Now, this is a traumatic event. At that point, you may be feeling the whole anxiety, palpitations, edginess, and all of that. At that point, right, your stress hormone, adrenaline, that was released when that thing came up, is still working in your body. The whole jumpiness and all of that is still all over there in your body. Identifying it early and caring for yourself can help you come out of this issue. But if you don't identify early and care for yourself, it stays, it prolongs, and it escalates into post-traumatic stress disorder. So this is just simple examples of how that identifying early can help you take care of it as early as possible, because if you don't, it degenerates into probably disorders or something more serious. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you very much, Yetunde. That was beautifully answered. We
Okay.
can stop depression. We can stop depression by managing our stress. Thank you. I think there's no more question before we go, I would just like to say that because, okay, there's another question that came in, but let's just take the time to say that we don't have so much time on our side because of the network issues. And I would just like to say that this session is something that you can always go back to listen to. In case for me, I always go back to listen to make sure that I get the best out of this monthly seminars. So if you would like to hear these things again, you can always get the recording. You can always reach out to me and I'll send you the link. But a better way is a link that I just put in the chat box now. You can always click on it and it will take you. There's a YouTube channel. Our recordings are always put where you can always access it at any time. So you can click on the link or just go to YouTube and search Michael Olale SMP. I think you would be seeing this, and then you can just subscribe, watch all the sessions that we've done. We've done time management in May. We did career planning and development in June. We did effective communication in July, and in August, we were able to do critical thinking and problem solving. So this is the fifth out of a series of 10. So watch out. We still have sessions at the end of every month until February next year. And I am very, very sure that there will be one or two things that you listen to in this place that will make you better than the way you were before you listened. Thank you very much. Can we celebrate our guest one more time for giving us this wonderful session? And we believe that it will be helpful in our lives. There's this work-life balance that I'm going to go back to look at the slides and see how I can always get better myself. Thank you so much, everybody. Deborah, I can see your hand up. Is it a reaction or you have a question before we call it a day? Okay, there was one question, right? Okay. Deborah, do you have a question? If you have, you can always unmute yourself and go ahead. But if not, there's this last question here that you can help us to answer before you go. It says, what are the potential long-term consequences of unmanaged? Reading this thing itself is stressful. Reading this question is stressful. There are like 17 keywords there. So what are the potential long-term consequences of unmanaged chronic stress on mental and physical health? You can read it in the chat box.
Okay. So thank you, Max Josh, for stressing us tonight. You are looking at the potential. Sorry, I already went out from chat box. Let me just go back to it and be sure that I have your question right. Potential long-term consequences of unmanaged chronic stress on mental and physical health. Like I said, there are disorders that people develop when stress is unmanaged, and when it is prolonged for a long time. I mean, sometimes it even gets psychotic. People begin to see things that are not there, begin to hear things that are not there, begin to feel things, that are not there. So it gets even psychotic, and it's super super important that once that people are able to manage their stress effectively. I remember, oh my god, I don't have time, or we don't have time to share a story. I have quite lots of examples I could have shared with you, but yes, there are potential long-term consequences. Disorders, like I said, like post-traumatic stress disorder, like anxiety problems, like panic disorders, I mean, like psychotic disorders. These are different types of disorders, that people experience, that people can come down with when stress is unmanaged and is chronic. All right. So There are quite a number of them. Yes. So maybe we can talk bilaterally, Max Josh, if you don't mind. Since you say it's an actual real life experience and you just need clarifications, I mean, we can look at this real life experience together.
Yeah, thank you very much for that opportunity. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
We'll see how Max just would reach out to you, and we can have more details on this. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for coming around this evening. We believe that you've been able to gain one or two things which will be helpful moving forward. Like I said, once again, SMP means Success Mindsets Program, and it's something that everyone can gain one or two things from. We are in a series of seminars, 10 to be precise. This is the fifth one. By the last Sunday of next month, October, we'll be having another session. And in this session, we would also be having this 1 hour. We'll be bringing a guest that would also speak to us on matters that are very, very interesting. So please, if you don't mind and you would like to receive invites, you can drop your email in the chat box. I can always fetch it later and send and include it to our mailing list so that we'll be able to give you the necessary, the up-to-date information that we have for the seminars. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We are going to don't hesitate to reach out. We are always at this side to help connect with other people. Thank you so much, and have a good night. You can unmute yourself and say hello to maybe one or two people that you know before you leave for the night. Thank you so much. See you next month. Yeah. If you have not received any mail from us, you can
Thank
always
you.
drop your email in the chat box. Thank you so much, everybody.
Welcome. Hello, Mama.